nervous.
Like an awfully
Oh my God, he's gonna talk about snow again.
So I'm gathered.
So excited.
I'm here if there's actual news.
Hello? No, I'm not.
Yeah, he's coming that down like later, Jeff. Okay.
Well, good morning, everybody. Lieutenant Governor Polito, Transportation Secretary Stephanie Pollack, Environmental and Energy Secretary Matt Beaton, MBTA Interim General Manager Brian Shortsleeve, and Highway Administrator Tom Timlin and I are here this morning to talk a little bit about the weather today. Let me start by thanking everybody for taking us seriously with respect to caution, and if people had the ability to work from home and stay off the roads today, to do so. And based on sort of the early morning reports, it seems as if people have taken that pretty seriously and acted accordingly. I think the folks on the T are saying they have about a 25% load that would be typical for a Tuesday morning. The roads, for the most part, have people on them, but nothing like a typical commute. And I think as the day goes on, that's going to turn out to be particularly important. There's already significant snow falling in New York and in Connecticut and in Western Mass, and we fully expect it will be moving east with greater intensity over the course of the morning and into the early afternoon. The folks here in Boston at the Emergency Management Center are still calling for somewhere between 8 to 12 inches here in Boston, and the numbers across the rest of Massachusetts are somewhere between sort of 10 and 24 inches, depending upon where you are. The accumulation rate for this storm, once it gets going, is still, according to all of the weather reports, going to be pretty intense, somewhere between 2 and 4 inches an hour, which is a huge issue for those who may be out traveling. That, combined with high winds, will create what we would describe as extremely difficult driving conditions. And again, if people can stay off the roads for the rest of the day and give the crews the space and the time and the ability to clean up after all this, that would be terrific. We also expect that we're going to see some pretty heavy winds across the Commonwealth, anywhere from 40 to 50 miles an hour, and along the coast probably as high as 50 to 60, maybe even 70 mile an hour gusts. If you combine those with heavy wet snow and sleet, we do expect and anticipate we may have issues with respect to power outages. This is something that Secretary Beaton and his folks are spending a lot of time communicating directly with the utilities about. Folks have been pre-staged in places around the coastline where people have the biggest worries about this, and I think we'll be well positioned to deal with this if it turns out to be an issue. For people who didn't hear yesterday's announcement, today for the state workforce is emergency personnel only. State offices are closed. We fully expect everybody will be back at work on full strength tomorrow. Mass DOT says at this point they have about 2,400 pieces of equipment out. That number is obviously going to go up and down depending upon what happens over the course of the rest of the day. I think it's fair to say most important message on this one is for people to stay away from the plows and the first responders and the folks who are out there working the roads. There's already some commentary on social media that I saw this morning that people have, in fact, gotten a little too close to some of the plows, and nothing good can come from that. So, again, please give the folks who are out working on cleaning the roads the space and the ability that they need to actually get their job and their work done. Again, the Mass DOT folks are not going to open the HOV lane on 93 for the morning or evening commutes. They've also reduced speeds and imposed travel restrictions for tandem and specialty trucks on the Mass Pike as of 7 a.m. this morning. The MBTA is operating on a normal schedule today. The Mattapan line is being serviced with supplemental bus service. The ferry service is suspended for today. Commuters should anticipate weather delays and schedule changes for buses. The commuter rail is running what they would call a severe weather schedule. You should check mbta.com/winter and @MBTA on Twitter for real-time service updates. Anybody with a flight out of Logan Airport should check in with their airline to figure out what the story is there. There have already been dozens of postponements and hundreds of cancellations over the course of the morning. It's probably going to be a very complicated travel day for people, and it's very important that you reach out to your airline and make sure that you know exactly what the story is if you are planning to go somewhere. Your cities and towns are going to continue to provide updates over the course of the day with respect to what's going on in your communities, especially with regard to school cancellations and school openings tomorrow. The State Emergency Operations Center at MEMA in Framingham is open and will continue to provide situational awareness updates to our colleagues in emergency management and local government, and we're going to continue to monitor the forecast and the snow accumulation on the ground and make adjustments accordingly. Continue to visit the MBTA's website for updates on their service, and we do have folks here, as I mentioned before, from Transportation, Public Safety, and the Highway, and I do want to give Secretaries Pollock and Beaton and Highway Administrator and Interim GM Brian Shortsleeve a chance to say a few words. But again, the big message from the Lieutenant Governor and me is thank you very much. It seems people have stayed off the roads today, which is critical to the Commonwealth's ability to clean up after the storm and ensure public safety. And we look forward to everybody having a nice, safe day. Thank you. Secretary Bosch.
Morning. So in addition to thanking the folks who stayed off the road, as the governor said, I also just want to thank all the men and women of MassDOT, the MBTA, and our contractors who are out there trying to keep everybody safe and make sure that those people who do need to travel today can get where they're going. And we really do appreciate those people who don't need to travel trying to stay off the roads. We're up to, as of 8 a.m., we're up to about 2,900 pieces of equipment on the roads, and that will obviously increase as the intensity of the storm moves eastward. And we're carefully monitoring conditions, and we will make adjustments in terms of plowing versus treating with salt or pre-treating, whatever is needed as the conditions change over the course of the day. As the governor mentioned, on the MBTA, we're running regular service on the bus and transit system, but especially as the snow picks up, strongly encourage folks who are thinking of going out and using the T to check T alerts, Twitter, the website, apps, however they prefer to get their information, because there may need to be changes, including changes in the bus routes, if the snow picks up. But for now, rapid transit and bus are running on a regular schedule. We haven't seen any major problems or delays this morning. We're seeing very light volumes. Commuter rail is running on the severe winter schedule, and no ferries today, but other than that, the service is there. So if everyone just sticks with the program and make sure that they keep safe, we will do everything in our power to keep you safe today. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. You know, it feels a little bit like you invited all your friends over for a party, and then now you're kind of hanging around and saying, where are they? Well, rest assured, your friends are coming. We've had multiple calls with National Weather Service, and the most recent one at 6 a.m. this morning. And when this storm picks up, which we're starting to see in Worcester now, and be heading this way, we're still talking snow volumes anywhere from 2 to 4 inches an hour. So when we compare this to the winter of 2015, for example, you'd see a lot of snow over a prolonged period of time. This is going to dump a whole bunch of snow in a very short period of time. So when those snow volumes pick up, roads will become hazardous for travel. So if you're looking out your window now and saying, geez, maybe I can run into the office, maybe I can run those last minute errands, I didn't get the chance to pick up enough groceries last night, probably not a wise decision. Because once you get to where you need to be, the conditions can change fast and change drastically, and you may end up being stuck where you are. So we're still looking at between Boston 8 to 12, Central Mass 12 to 16, 18, and then in the western part of the state anywhere up to 24 inches of snow. So that has not changed. So we just don't want folks who have been cooperating, as the governor and secretary have said, who've really been cooperating with us to change their mind, because this storm is still coming, it's still real, and people need to continue to pay attention so to help us keep you safe. And as the governor alluded to, once again, please don't crowd the plow. Over 24 instances this winter alone, which hasn't been a real bad one up until this point, of vehicles hitting plows. Unsafe for the driver for sure, unsafe for the folks on the equipment. So give us a wide berth, let us do our job. We're going to get through this in the near term. Some areas it's going to transition to rain, followed by a little more snow, followed by dropping temperatures. So for us, this is a long duration event. We'll be out there all night tonight, getting ready for tomorrow morning, but we look forward to the continued cooperation of the traveling public. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Tom. As Secretary Pollack said, the MBTA is fully prepared for today's storm. We had crews out all of last night, around 800 personnel monitoring the system. Today, as we speak, we've got 800 buses in service, over 500 rapid transit trains, and our focus is on delivering a full service today. As we come into this afternoon, this evening, we'll be running 24 operations through the night to make sure that tomorrow morning, for the morning rush, we're ready to go and we can move the 600,000 people that count on the T to get them to work every morning. Through tonight, we'll be running anti-icing equipment across the red line, the orange line, the green line, and we'll have another 800 personnel out monitoring key switches to make sure the system is ready to go for the morning. We'll be running the trains through the evening. Same thing on the commuter rail. We'll run the commuter rail trains all night to make sure for tomorrow morning they're ready to go. Ridership's light so far, about 20% of a typical day on the commuter rail, and about 25% for rapid transit, which is red line, orange line, blue line. Thanks.
Secretary Beaton.
Thank you. Good morning. As the governor mentioned, this storm, once it picks up, has the potential for significant power outages, particularly along the coast in southeastern Massachusetts, particularly in the area of the bands of mixed precipitation. We plan on seeing some significantly heavy snow, potential for ice, and rain coming in behind some snow. So this has the potential to set up, in combination with the high winds, to have us seeing some significant outages. As we've said previously leading up to this storm, if you do experience an outage or see some down power lines, please stay away. Please be patient, contact your utility, and they will respond as quickly as possible. The one thing we do want to mention is to ask people, if they do lose power, to be patient. There are our public utilities, particularly Eversource, National Grid, and Unitel, have taken the storm very seriously and have brought in a number of hundreds of external crews to supplement their internal crews, have deployed them throughout the Commonwealth, particularly in the areas where we expect to get hit the hardest. But if we do see high volumes of outages, it will take some time to get these outages back up to full restoration, because first we have to allow for the winds to subside, and then secondly, the highest number of restoration, per unit restorations will get taken care of first, and then the smaller, more distributed restorations will occur, which may take some time. So we just ask for everybody to be patient, to be safe, stay away from downed wires, stay warm. If you do experience outages for an extended period of time, please stay tuned to our future announcements in MEMA, which we will be providing places for people to go and stay warm if they do lose power for an extended period of time. But again, we just ask for your patience during restorations and ask you to be safe. Thank you.
Questions?
Secretary Beaton talked about power outages. Governor, I wonder if somebody up there could pinpoint where regionally they're most vulnerable for power outages. What part of the state, if you know?
Well, I think the combination of snow turning to sleet, turning to rain with the high winds is probably the part that people are most concerned about. And if you talk to utilities, that probably means along the coast more than any other place.
South Coast, North Shore?
I think, yeah, I would say South Coast, the Cape. If I were to go by county, I would say, certain parts of Essex County, certain parts of Plymouth County, certain parts of Norfolk County, and Barnstable.
The coast.
And Bristol.
The coast.
The coast for the most part. That seems to be the area that's most likely to get the really heavy wet snow, which combined with the high winds creates the biggest issues.
It's interesting with this one how different parts of the state are getting hit so differently, whether it's amounts of snow or flooding on the coast, wind impact on the coast.
Well, the heaviest snow's now directed at Western Mass. I mean, the hard part about a storm like this is if you were listening in on our call starting on Sunday night, the storm itself has maintained to some extent the intensity people expected it to have. But the three things that have changed, number one is the temperature along the coast is a little warmer. And remember, 2 or 3 degrees is all it takes to turn light fluffy snow into sleet or rain. The second is the storm itself has pivoted a bit twice since we first started talking to these folks. And if you looked at the first forecast we got Sunday night, it was basically the same across almost all of Massachusetts, somewhere between a foot to 16 inches across all of Massachusetts. And over the course of the last 2 days, a lot more in Western Mass, slightly more in Central Mass, a little less along the coast, but with the high winds and the slush and the snow, and a little more north of Boston. And that's just a function of the fact that some of this is generally predictable, some of it's a little harder to predict specifically.
Seeing what's going on out in upstate New York and such, and what's
Yeah.
coming before us, the biggest concern about the storm right now is this.
I would say I think we're all worried about the power outages just because, frankly, we've been kind of lucky on this one over the course of the past few storms. Some of that's because people have done a good job of preparing and have done a lot of work taking care of trees and other elements that could get in the way of the power lines. I think the second big thing is this whole issue of, as Tom Timlin talked about, making sure that people stay off the roads and give the folks who are cleaning up the roads the room and the space they need to get that done. One of the things that's likely to occur at the end of this storm, especially in Eastern Mass, is it's going to get colder, and as it gets colder, if the surfaces are as wet as everybody's saying they're going to be, the possibility for icing is real. And over the course of tonight, there's going to be a lot of work done to de-ice the roads so that tomorrow morning when people get back into normal commute mode, the roads aren't dangerous. The other thing I would say is that Brian and the folks at the T are going to have a lot of work to do to get ready for tomorrow morning because, again, for them, the big issues will be cleaning up after tonight and being prepared to run a full service tomorrow morning with everybody sort of back in what I would call sort of traditional commuting mode.
And Governor, are you planning that will be ready? You're hopeful that people can plan to just go to work?
Yeah, our big objective here is to get through the day as briskly and as comprehensively as we can, and to be in a position where tomorrow morning people are in a position to get back to doing what they would normally do on a Wednesday morning.
Last question. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.